Hi, I'm Brandon Dorr, Creativity and Media Innovation Reporter at Ad Age. Welcome to another edition of the Marketer's Brief podcast, our weekly discussion of marketing news and trends that have the industry buzzing. On this episode, we're joined by Marcelo Kertesz, Chief Marketing Officer at Manscaped. The brand is best known for marketing its male grooming products designed for below the belt. Recently, the brand has seen a lot of success with a campaign that turns its attention upwards, towards men's faces. The campaign encourages men to show a little more class on dating apps by sending pictures of their faces, if they send a picture at all, instead of what they usually do. A recent ad, which is surprisingly heartfelt as well as funny, has become the brand's most viral to date, generating nearly 60 million views in a week across social media. Marcelo joins us today to break down the making of that campaign and its unconventional media strategy, what the brand has learned from its success, and how he uses his past experience as a political advertiser making presidential campaigns at Manscaped. Here's the conversation with Marcelo. Marcelo Kertesz, welcome to the Marketer's Brief podcast.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Thanks so much for joining us. So I want to talk a little bit about your career and leading up to Manscaped. You've been with the company for over 5 years now. You've been in the CMO seat for 3 years now. How did you find yourself leading marketing for this company?
Well, it's a long story that I'll try to make as short as possible. But I actually started my professional life back in Brazil. You can tell by the accent, as a creative, working at agencies, art director that became creative director. But I always had a passion for strategy and to understand more of the business and the drivers, way before we would get to the creative execution. That ended up leading me to do a few political marketing campaigns where I was kind of leading marketing strategy and creative. All in all, I ended up doing 7 presidential campaigns in 5 different countries, with the privilege of winning 6 out of the 7. So it was a great track record. And that ended up bringing me to the US. I started launching a few brands of my own. One of them, actually, we had a partner that had close ties with Manscaped, and he introduced me to Paul Tran, our CEO. And my first meeting with him, he was asking for a very small task. He wanted me to create an icon for the brand. And I'm like, man, there's a lot that we can do here, much more than just an icon. So we started engaging in this conversation. A few days later, Paul asked me to join the company. I made a counter offer saying, I will, if you let me run everything that has an ounce of creative on it. So from product design to packaging to digital to advertising to branding. And he was kind enough or crazy enough, depending how you see it, to take on my offer. And it was the start of a beautiful partnership.
I have to say, I find the transition from political advertising and presidential campaigns to Manscaped to be a really fascinating pivot. I'm really curious if you find that there's anything that has carried over between those two jobs.
There's a lot that carries over. First is this obsession to effective strategy. I like to say that, in the corporate world, if we get a new category, a new launch, a new product that we get to a 10% market share in a few months, we all be releasing fireworks and celebrating. In the political world, if you don't get to 50% of market share plus 1 vote, it is as good as none, right? You haven't done your job. So that puts a lot of pressure. That makes everything that you do from the creative side to be very connected with the strategy and to be very effective. So that carries over.
So we're recording in August. This episode's going to run in September, but I believe August is the month that marks 3 years of being in the CMO seat for you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What is the biggest way that this job has changed since you took it on 3 years ago?
I think that my job when I took it was to promote a certain change. So of course my job changes with the change I'm, trying to help support here at Manscaped. But I think the biggest one, and I knew that when I took on the role, was to fully transitioning Manscaped from a, let's call it, performance D2C first company to a true omni-channel marketing machine. And with the caveat that when I joined Manscaped, Paul Tran already had the vision to be omnichannel. So the company had some retail presence and had, like all the channels, but it was still pretty much everything gravitated around the performance and D2C space, because that's where, you first put yourself out in the world, you see progress, you see growth. But to get to the growth that we have the ambition for, we needed to fully embrace and shift the way we do marketing, the way that we support the sales channels, and the way that we even think about like product development. It touches everything. And because you have a very strong culture at Manscaped, there is the cultural change that is also a challenge, but a good challenge.
Let's talk about how you guys have marketed lately. You pretty recently launched a some new creative as part of a fairly recently launched campaign. That campaign is called Send Face Pics Instead. Tell us a little bit about that campaign.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's we're pretty excited. It's early days of the campaign, but we are already seeing a lot of good indicators of success. One of them being like one of our pieces of content just got like more than 60 million views organically. So it's the our most viral piece of content in our history. And Manscaped is known for putting some pretty, hilarious and viral content out there. But the campaign has, of course, a strong objective behind it. Manscaped was born as a groin first brand. We knew since, day one of this company existing that this is not the end goal. We wanted to serve men its full grooming needs, but we knew that, we needed to develop our authority in the face space and, beard trimming and face shaving and skincare. So this whole new campaign that we just launched is about communicating to the world how, the Manscaped that you probably know and love for the groin is actually pretty good at serving your face. And for that, I think the insight was, how do we create something that connects where we came from with where we're going, but it's part of the cultural conversation. So it's not just a brand talking about the brand, over and over again. Like, how can we be part of a conversation in the right side of things, which also is one of our missions, is to, like be a force towards being a better man, no matter how, and, using humor and our tone of voice to help do so. So we understood that there is this like recent phenomenon. I mean, probably always present in history, but maybe more debated.
The smartphone probably made it a lot more prevalent.
Yes, about people exchanging pictures of their private parts. And although, of course, this exchange, when it's done with mutual agreement for people who desire to do so, it's beautiful and great. But what we came across that for us was really interesting, and that's the opportunity that we want to share to the world, is that scientifically, because yes, we dug into science, it is proven that sending a picture of your face, if you have the intent of starting a conversation or engaging with someone, sending a picture of your face, it's 9 times more likely to give you a positive result than sending a picture of your private parts. So that's what the Send Face Pics Instead is all about. And that, of course, highlights the fact that we have a ton of tools to make your face look probably better than you're down there. And yes, and we're here for you, and we're here to help you not be shy about sharing your beautiful face, to the world. So that's kind of the rationale behind it.
So the campaign is partially designed to make consumers aware that you guys make products for men's faces as well. I imagine there were a lot of creative ways you maybe even thought about doing that early on. Can you talk a little bit more about the decision to approach the topic in the way that you guys did? You're not necessarily making the most controversial stance in the world here, but you are technically making a stance. You are encouraging men to behave in a certain way. Why did you guys opt to go that route?
Yeah, so there's a ton. I will highlight a few that come to mind pretty easy. So one of them is, we believe that one of the things that we have that consumers resonate with a lot is our tone of voice, right? So having a good sense of humor, being able to make it fun of ourselves. And that allows us to engage in certain conversations that for other brands might be really hard to do. We had to develop that skill to survive because you cannot talk about people's groins without, breaking the ice with a little bit of humor. But we love what we saw in terms of the kind of relationship that it gets us to establish with our consumers. So using that for good was a big one. So that's why kind of getting a cultural phenomena and trying to, hey, there's better ways to do this was one of them. The second is, like you said, it's not controversial, but it does have some edge because you are talking about basically dick pics, right? So that's something that still make people, jump. I just saw myself jump as I was saying this because it does have that edge. And that's something that we like to stay close to because one of the filters that we run our creative through here is if we feel that other brands, the legacy brands in our space could be saying what we're saying, then that's not our voice.
I want to talk about a new spot you guys just released part of this campaign. The spot is called Post Pic Clarity. This was the spot you were talking about earlier in this episode. More than 60 million views on social. I believe the most viral spot that you guys have made, right?
Yeah, I believe it to be the case. Yes.
Talk a little bit about the creation of this spot because you guys had a pretty interesting partnership where you worked with some USC film students. Can you talk about partnering with them on this and bringing that spot to life?
Sure. And that's, I think that's the beauty of running a campaign in today's world, right? In the old days, things were very monolithical, right? Like you had a campaign, you had like that hero spot, and you had like that key visual that the whole thing was about being consistent across the board because the consistency would be kind of valuable to portray the company as a big company that had all those means to make things look exactly the same. And we know that in today's world, it is a little bit of, I would not say the opposite. What I call here is like consistent fragmentation. That's the term that I use to talk about it. It is something like to even answer your earlier questions of things that I bring from the political marketing days. We had to be very prolific with content in the political world, and but the strategy was very clear. So this idea of you have a very clear message to deliver, but there's multiple ways that you can deliver them. So sometimes it's a social content that you can produce in a very loose manner, and sometimes it's a highly scripted, highly crafted other piece of content that you want to have control at every little point. So this kind of came to life as the piece of content that we didn't want to control as much. We at the same time we did a hero spot that I also think it's hilarious and really powerful that I invite our listeners to watch too. But this one, we reached out through our creators network. We reached out to this group of people and we told them the idea. We told like this is what we want to convey in terms of like the concept of the campaign. And we gave them a lot of freedom to come up with a story, to come up with the casting, to come up with, every decision, because that is part of like our brand efforts to have some part of the budget where we are willing to take risks and have less control. Of course, we can always, decide if we're going to use it or not, if we're going to, how much we're going to push it or not. But it's almost like giving yourself more chances for happy accidents. And I think that is one of those very, very, very happy accidents. And I mean, I can't call it an accident because it has a lot of talented people behind it. But you know what I mean? In the sense of we did not try to control every little piece of it. And now it's kind of amassing this huge viewership online. It even made organically to Reddit thread, like kind of topic being discussed on Twitter. And the other thing about it that I think made us really happy and proud was that people saw really quickly that we were on the right side of this issue, right? Which is, yes, let's talk about it. We are not, at any means condoning unsolicited pics of any sorts, but even better, we are saying, hey, if you are engaging on a conversation, a face pic is the best you can do.
Yeah. Speaking of happy accidents, I just want to, I guess, for the listeners, give them a quick breakdown of the spot. Again, I do encourage people to go see it. Post pic clarity, a guy is trying to take a dick pic, accidentally drops his phone, takes a picture of his face instead, and sends it. The girl ends up liking it. They fall in love, have kids. Right? Did I sum it up effectively, right?
Yeah. So yeah, this guy with this accidental face pick, he ends up finding the love of his life. They have a happy life, they have kids. And one thing that you didn't mention is that in the end, the original guy is older. His son is getting to an age where he's starting to engage in relationship, and he's about to take a dick pic, and dad looks at him and he gets it, and he just like, okay, I'll send a face pic instead.
It's really pretty good. It is pretty good.
It's good because it's emotional and funny at the same time, which is always something that is not easy to do. And again, kudos to the guys who brilliantly executed all the aspects of this spot. But this combination of being funny and emotional at the same time, I find it to be very powerful.
Considering how successful this spot was, are there any lessons you feel like you've learned from how you approached this ad that you're maybe going to bring forward to future marketing endeavors, whether it be a change in how you work with creators or yeah, just curious. I mean, this is one of your more successful ones ever, so
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it kind of teaches us a new lesson, but of course, it does boost the confidence in pursuing that kind of creative development, right? So, not only to be prolific, that thing that I mentioned on the consistent fragmentation. So, you have a message to say, let's execute in 100 different ways with different aesthetics, different budgets, different everything, as long as they have a consistent strategic message that they're delivering. So it boosts the confidence to do that. And I think it also boosts the confidence to also, in that kind of multiple asset approach, having a lot of, like, a few of them at least, that you're willing to take a risk and have less control. I think in advertising there is, because that's where the profession came to life, with a lot of control and the craft, and and having like tens of meetings to discuss wardrobe and makeup and the cinematography and the storyboards and dissecting every frame, which of course has its value for a lot of things that you need to be delivered on a very specific way. But I think in today's world, having part of your budget assigned to a place where you can take risk and just get talented people that you really think will deliver something great and say, hey, that's what I want to say, just go and run with it. I find it to be refreshing, successful, yeah, and fun. It's like it's perfect world.
and Special US was the creative agency, right, that worked on this?
Yes, and I'm glad you're bringing them up because they were great partners there. They are so talented. They are a group of people that I, for a while, wanted to work with. They had a good track record of, amazing creative pieces, and they were the one that came with the concept send face pics instead. As we usually do, at Manscaped, from then on, we do it together. So there's a lot of development that we do in house and share with them, and they do and share with us, and it becomes kind of almost like the same team. Including this piece that we are talking about, the post pic clarity. That's something that when we started to see it, we share with them, because it's their concept anyway. So it's a really good relationship, and they're a great agency to work with.
I want to talk about the media strategy for just a couple minutes here because there were a few, I guess, placements that stood out to me as being like unconventional, right? I think Tinder is one of the places where this campaign is running. Netflix maybe a little bit more standard. The Tinder one is really kind of what stood out to me. Can you talk a little bit about the media strategy and why you guys opted to go for a little bit more, I guess, an unconventional placement, like we were saying earlier, right? Like this is a very fragmented landscape these days. Curious how you guys navigated it and then landed on the strategy that you landed on.
No, cool. That's a great question, and thanks for bringing that up, because I think media has always two main roles, right? So there's one role which is to put your, message in front of the right audience, and honestly, in front of as much people as possible in most cases, right? You want to reach a ton of people, especially for this kind of campaign, which is very upper funnel. We do want to reach the world. Of course, the budget always comes in and says, you can't. So there is that technical aspect of media strategy, which is, okay, how do we most effectively put this message in front of the right people. And that is, I believe, there's a lot of talent to do that available, and that's kind of your everyday job. But there's also the media as part of the message story. And if you think about it, just the fact that you brought those two up, shows how this can be effective. In this case, partnering up with Tinder and promoting this Send Face Pics Instead campaign in their environment is a message on itself, because it's a place where we found out through our research that it's one of those high traffic of pictures of private parts. That's a place that happens with quite a high frequency. So what better place, to start that conversation, to spark that conversation other than that. So that was a very interesting and very strategic decision on doing that. And in a similar fashion, I think Netflix is a place where people go for stories. I think that stories that have the humor and emotional component, like it's not by accident that rom-coms are always like super popular and have a lot of viewership. So it's almost like finding that you have a piece of content that's worth invading your place of entertainment, because it is part of entertainment. It is a beautiful message. It has a human story behind it. So yeah, and we like to do a lot of that. In the past, we did things even with, like, we put message in fortune cookies. We love mixing the technical, conventional media buy with ones that are a message on themselves.
Marcelo, I think that is all the time we have. We could probably chat for like another hour or two, but sadly, I don't think our listeners will stick around for as long.
Okay.
So I will just say thank you so much for joining us here on the Marketer's Brief.
No, thank you, Brandon. And like I said, I could talk about marketing, face pics, political marketing forever. So I'm glad that you're stopping us. Otherwise, I would just go forever. But thanks.
That was Marcelo Kertesz, Chief Marketing Officer at Manscaped. I'm Brandon Dorr, Creativity and Media Innovation Reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketer's Brief podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We promise we'll keep it brief.
Marketer's Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.